Today we will analyze the transitioning company of Facebook to Meta. A good place to start is by looking at the strategies that have allowed the company to grow so large and will aid in that continued growth. The company has partaken in a transnational strategy, meaning they have a large portion of standardized characteristics amongst their wide variety of services. But they are able to please certain regions of the world with specifically catered content. This strategy allows for an easier to manage system with still some of the user-specific attributes that make them keep returning. Secondly, the diversification strategy is a huge part of Meta's success with the acquisition of so many other companies within just the past decade. And although there are many new companies, they are a strategic fit for Meta as they relate to each other in some way or another. This allows the company to incorporate each service into each other, as well as to use similar resources across each service. This allows them to save time and money. The final notable strategy is the innovation of the market. Past innovation has led to the social media-centric world we know of today, and now the company is looking to do it again with its new focus on the metaverse, a digital world. Now moving on to a more environmental analysis, more specifically the internal aspects of a SWOT analysis, the strengths and the weaknesses. One of Facebook's greatest strengths is its diversified portfolio. With many services such as Facebook, WhatsApp, Oculus, and Portal, the company is able to delve into Messenger, virtual reality, video, and of course its gigantic social media presence. In addition to this, it has a market dominance within most of these categories, with loyal users that have used their services within the past and plan to use their services far into the future. On the other spectrum, the company has a few weaknesses that have come into the spotlight over the past few years. One of which is the privacy concerns. Users are worried that Facebook is listening to conversations in order to obtain data for different platforms that the company offers. In addition, once the acquisition of Oculus, their virtual reality company, was made, the company then required its users to create a Facebook account in order to use the device. For some users, a $300 or $400 piece of equipment became useless because they are unable or willing to create a Facebook account and give away their privacy. Another weakness of the company is a high dependence on advertising. The company makes most of its profit from its sale of advertisement on its platforms, and a lack of this could be worrisome for the company.
The external environment for Facebook includes components such as political factors, economic conditions, socio-cultural forces, legal and regulatory factors, environmental forces, and technology factors. Analyzing these factors and determining which will have the largest effect on Facebook's strategy and decisions is called the pestle analysis. Managers of Facebook must pay close attention to these factors in time to respond to changes. A lot of Facebook users use the platform to talk about politics. This presents a challenge for Facebook as they can be liable if fake news spreads to the point of affecting public policy and election outcomes. Additionally, some countries that practice internet censorship have banned Facebook altogether. Related to economic conditions, Facebook's overall revenue depends heavily on the condition of the U.S. economy and the global economy. Facebook's largest source of revenue is from businesses using the platform to advertise their products or services. The status of the economy largely impacts how much companies are willing to spend on advertising. Facebook benefits from increasing social media usage in the U.S. and across the world. However, it does seem like the younger generation is more inclined to use Instagram and TikTok instead of Facebook. It's important for Facebook to see this challenge and discover ways to keep the younger generation interested in the platform. Facebook has benefited from rapid technology change or advancement of smartphones. Technology factors that allow for more internet usage will always be an opportunity for Facebook. A technology factor that is a threat for Facebook is the increasing number of online social media companies. Like mentioned before, more apps like TikTok will come to the social scene that younger generations might find more interesting than Facebook. More companies are implementing actions to operate in a more environmentally friendly manner. Facebook has 3 components to their strategy: minimizing environmental footprint through operational excellence, leveraging their platform to develop innovative solutions to catalyze climate action, and collaborating with others to drive understanding around the issue and scale the impact of their solutions. Legal and regulatory factors are one of Facebook's biggest concerns. The growing number of data breaches negatively affects Facebook's reputation and concerns consumers. Facebook has also faced several lawsuits related to these breaches. Our recommendations for Facebook is to negotiate with governments that practice internet censorship. Facebook is currently banned in China, Iran, and North Korea, which is a lot of potential market share Facebook is missing out on. Our second recommendation is to increase cybersecurity. This could be done through acquisition or hiring more experienced personnel. It's important for Facebook to take big action to win back the trust of Facebook users regarding the privacy of their data. Lastly, we recommend that Facebook identifies new revenue streams. Other companies entering the social media scene and taking market share away from Facebook is a huge concern. Facebook can mitigate this risk by diversifying their revenue streams.
So I'll be talking about Meta Platforms Inc., also known as Facebook, and going into their financial analysis and strategic concerns. We'll start by looking at a one-year stock performance graph of Meta Platforms Inc. This goes from April 2021 to April 2022. And we can see that for the most part, it was relatively consistent growth. And then from September, stabilization. October was whenever Facebook announced they would be transitioning from Facebook Inc. to Meta Platforms Inc. The big dip around February 2022 was when they announced their Q4 earnings report, and it has not come back up since then as far as per share price goes. We're now looking at 5 quarters of financial statement trends for Meta Platforms Inc. dating from December 2020 to fiscal year end 2021. And we can see in the income statement that net income growth as well as sales or revenue growth have seen moderate changes up and down, which indicates that their earnings are not growing at maybe the rate that they should be. Other things to note is on the balance sheet, you can see in Q4 of 2021, cash and short-term investments are down relative to the previous 4 quarters, and total debt is up relative to the previous 4 quarters. So in order to get a more expansive view of Meta Platforms Inc. current financial status, we're looking at 5 years of financial ratios from their financial statements. And we can see that the current ratio in 2021 was 3, so it's down from the previous years. Gross margin is trending downwards over time. Net profit margin has been somewhat up and down over the past 5 years. Return on equity has been up and down as well. And the same goes for return on assets. And those are the measures that we'll be focusing on for this analysis. To summarize Meta Platforms Inc.'s financials, we can talk a little bit about how their October 2021 rebranding caused some skepticism with investors, and this was eventually followed by that aforementioned Q4 earnings report where they saw a big decrease in their share price and subsequently their market capitalization. We were also able to determine that the financial statements suggest Facebook may not be growing as much as expected. We also looked at some of those key financial ratios, and overall, we were able to determine that despite their poor share price performance in 2022, they still appear to be a strong financial corporation going forward. So regarding strategic concerns of Meta Platforms Inc., They've aggressively entered into their metaverse project, which is them engaging in the strategies of market development and diversification. So this is their attempt to compete and expand their market power and gain more consumers' time and money. And Facebook, because they're so big, one of the big 5 technology companies, they have the funds and the people necessary to become an industry leader in this new virtual market. But they are relatively new to developing this type of intensive software, so they could require some alternative strategies to effectively implement their new metaverse. As far as alternatives and recommendations for Meta Platforms Inc., they could enhance their effectiveness developing this new future by considering the strategy of acquisitions and strategic alliances. There's already a lot of companies out there, such as game developers, who develop innovative software for virtual reality hardware. And Meta could align with or purchase some of these companies to add skilled and experienced software engineers to their metaverse team. And because it's such a big company, Facebook has the resources and the tools to research which developers can help them, but they would need to do so by determining who has been successful at creating virtual reality content.